Hey everyone, we're just going to give it just a few seconds and we'll get started. All right, welcome everybody. Jessica, we're here. We're going to get started. Just got to get my camera. All right. So as usual, you guys are all on mute. Feel free to send your questions or anything you'd like to see to the chat box throughout this presentation. We're going to try to keep this around 30 minutes today, and we may go a little longer if we have a lot of questions. As always, it's recorded, so I'll share it afterwards for you to share with others in the company. All right. Okay, so as I said, I'm Jessica Wirt, Customer Success Manager here at SimpleSoft. We do have John Eltzroth. He is hopping on momentarily, but he will be joining us as well for this discussion. So this is a follow-up webinar to the one we did back in November on activity management, where we kind of showed you how to navigate, how to set meetings and phone calls, and how to complete them. So this is a follow-up more for you to know why and how to better use it as a process in your company, and especially for the sales team. Just 1 second here. Sorry guys, John is having an issue logging in. Let me make sure he gets in here. All right. Always technical difficulties, right? Okay. So, all right. So really quick, I'm just going to review some upcoming events. We have our live demo of the 8.5 release. It's a really big release for Infor. Lots of great updates coming. So be sure to sign up for that on the 25th. And we also have a review of marketing platforms coming up in April, date to be determined. So stay tuned and make sure you check out our events page on our website for the registration links. I'll have it in follow-up as well. All right. Okay, so I want to share a couple of quotes on team collaboration. We talk a lot about Infor CRM being a collaboration tool and how important that is. And so I just wanted to share some of our favorite quotes that we like here at SimpleSoft. Does anyone else have a quote they want to share in the chat box? So it really should be, and the reason I'm sharing the collaboration is Infor CRM really is about collaboration. We hear a lot of times from leadership that they're unsure what their team is doing in CRM. They're unsure how to get their team to do things in CRM and what it's all for. And that's why we like to tell people to share the message of collaboration. That is the point of the tool. It's not a big brother to watch what they're doing. It's to collaborate and stay in the loop. Because if everyone's using activity management and putting notes in, everyone will stay in the loop and be able to function better as a team than trying to function separately to be successful. So I just thought I'd share some quotes. Let me check in here. It looks like we have John. Welcome, John. Sorry you had some technical difficulties there. All right. All right, so I was going to get started with talking about how to get started with activity management. And so we are often asked, you know, sales leaders and other leadership know that the teams need to be recording their activity in there, but they really have no clue where to start. And so these are just some items to get you thinking of how to start and build your process of what you're trying to capture. And so we always say, you know, what behavior are you trying to incent with the users? And we say start small. So don't try to make a process for everyone. Try to start with one group at a time. We recommend sales first because that's, those are sometimes the biggest users of CRM. And then think about, what do you want to measure? Do you give them call quotas, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or meeting quotas? Or perhaps they're supposed to visit certain customers or numbers of customers within a certain time frame. So if you think about all the things you want to measure, that helps you build out the process and accountability of what they should be putting in the CRM. Just going to check in on John one more time. Hey, John, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, awesome. Feel free. John's here to co-host this with me. So John, jump in anytime you want to add in anything.
Okay.
All right. So the what to measure is pretty important to help you build out what you want to accomplish in there. And that's also going to help you with building your dashboards and your groups to follow up to see if they're getting them done. Update on activity pick lists with common values. So you'll want to know, so when you do an activity, there's a drop down and you can customize that just like the other pick list you can customize in the CRM. So when you think about the common activities that your sales team does, if you can think of some quick, the common values that they're going to use a lot that are specific to your sales cycle, put them in that drop down so that it's faster for them to put the information in. So perhaps follow up on quote is a common occurrence they're doing. You'd want to put that on the pick list. The next subject is the big one of educating your users. It's really important. Not only letting them know the difference between these, but why they're important. But letting them know the difference is important because we do see a lot of people putting everything in as one thing. So some people might put everything in as a meeting, even though it was a phone call or a to-do, or they'll put everything in as a to-do. And then that makes it hard for leadership to pull correct metrics if everything is under one type. And then also we see sometimes people just put in a note, so they just add a note to history that they made a phone call and they'll have all the details and it'll be great notes, but it's not in the right place. So then if you go to pull metrics, it's not going to be correct because they're recorded as notes history. And so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. And also that setup of actions to follow up automatically. We showed that on the last video, and John can kind of show that too when we look at the CRM. It's important because once you finish a phone call, especially if you leave a voicemail, maybe you want to schedule a second to follow up, or if you need a meeting follow up. And if you have it pop up automatically, it reminds them and they can go ahead and schedule it all in one complete action. So it creates a lot of efficiency. I'm going to pause there. John, anything to add on this slide or any questions from anybody?
No, I think I don't have anything to add there.
Okay, and I don't see any questions. All right, I'm gonna go to the next slide here. All right, so we get asked a lot, by management, how can we use this? How can we use it to improve? And so we put together some points we thought. Again, back to that collaboration piece I was talking about before, is remembering that that's the objective. And so making sure that all the teams are using it to stay collaborative. We wanted to talk about that history versus activities. So we get asked a lot when people are making groups, they say, why can't I see all the calls that my team member made? He says he made 10 calls last week, but I don't see them anywhere when I'm pulling a group on history. And that could be because they're not completed activities. So when you have an activity scheduled, so you have a phone call for next week, that's only going to show up under the activity table if you make a group. But once I complete those activities next week and I complete my phone calls, they move over underneath that contact as a history item. So as a completed phone call and history. So if you want to see what Jessica completed last week, you would make a group based on the history table. If you want to see what I have to do next week, what my pending activities are, you have to make a group with the activity table. John, is that a good way of explaining it?
Right, and the other thing to keep in mind here, since the overall objective is collaboration and helping everybody within the company that is collaborating on a customer, it's important to show both pending activity and the history in a timely manner. So if I'm a sales manager and I'm looking at an account, my best way of knowing what's going on in the account is to look at CRM. And so I should be able to see that we've got pending activities that are scheduled and we have recent history that was completed. So if one of the CRM users is not used to scheduling their activities, but they just put their notes in or maybe record emails, I'm only getting a partial picture of what's going on within the account.
Okay, that's a good point. And then so our next bullet is on kind of what I was talking about a little bit with the notes versus completed activity, where I was saying some people will put their phone calls in as a note, and that is not recommended process. We recommend doing it as an activity. And so we get asked a lot, what if I just picked up the phone and took an unplanned call? And that's definitely where you want to use the unscheduled activity to record the phone call instead of just adding the note to CRM. And again, it's a lot of information. We'll show some of it here in a minute when we flip over, but we also have lots of videos on the YouTube channel that review all these functions as well. And then of course,
and then I'll add that a note really should be used for something that's not activity related. So it may be a discovery that you've made, you've learned something about the account, maybe you saw a news article, or you had a conversation with someone and they mentioned something about that account. And so the note should be additional information about what's going on. If it was discovered as part of an activity or a meeting, a phone call, a to-do with the customer, then it should be either an activity that was getting completed, or it should be just completing an unscheduled activity. Someone called you out of the blue, and so that would be an unscheduled activity, but you're completing a phone call in that case. Or if someone immediately scheduled a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, then that may be an unscheduled meeting activity, and it's not a note. It's an activity that you're recording.
Yes, good points. That it is critical, because as we're mentioning in this next bullet here are the group examples, and if you want to have accurate metrics to measure those KPIs, then it's important to have things done correctly and in the right place so that you can create some of these groups or examples that we've given here. There's a shameless plug there for version 8.5. Coming up is because you'll be able to show pending versus completed, because the new dashboards show two sets of data, so that'll be really nice. And then the history created without notes. So our own Don Manrisky, stickler of this, we get in trouble for it all the time, completing history without putting our notes in. I never do that. Just kidding, John. But right. It's important, to complete and add the notes of what you did on the phone call, what you talked about, what did you accomplish? Was there an agenda you went through at the meeting? So that everyone, again, right, can collaborate, can be in the loop, and can know what's going on. So if you get sick tomorrow and someone's got to cover, they just have to pull up the CRM and they'll know what's going on. All right, and then we have some others here. So you can use it too to review. I see a lot of sales managers using their activities dashboards in their sales meetings, because I'm sure a lot of you ask, what do you got on the plan this week and what'd you do last week, right? It's a common sales meeting question. And so instead of listening to everybody go through it, you could just pull up your dashboards and look there. And then also one-on-one check-ins. It's a great way to set those clear expectations, as we're saying in the next bullet, and hold them accountable to what they have to get done. And then we have here surprises, meaning these are things that maybe go, how would you say it, John? Like, not unnoticed, but they get forgotten a lot, for people to do these items. Do you want to touch on these, John?
Right. Sure. I think these are items where, if someone's not really using the CRM thoroughly, then there may be surprises from one part of the team to another. So, for example, if a salesperson's getting ready to call on an account and they don't know that there's an outstanding support issue that's being worked on that's gone longer than expected, then that's a surprise. They may be surprised by the customer during the call. And it goes the other way as well. A support person that's working on something may not know that there's a large pending opportunity that just came up, and so they may not handle their call properly. So if tickets aren't updated properly, then you may make a call on a customer saying, well, I understand that we're still trying to resolve this issue. And the customer may say, well, know that you resolved that a week ago. So that would be a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying in the loop is important, especially if you have a lot of teams that that work with the same customers. The silos can be difficult for everyone to be effective with serving the customer. Yeah. All right, let's pause, see if we got any questions. Anyone have any questions or anything they want us to review a little bit further on this slide? Don't see anybody yet. All right. Okay, so then we just wanted to take a quick look at how we as at SimpleSoft help our customers work through this. So I was just going to show a couple of quick slides of kind of some of the worksheets that we can help you work through to build out these processes. I know a lot of our customers, you have a database, you're using CRM, you may even be sending e-blasts out regularly to that database, but you're not really segmenting your data effectively, or you're not using teams yet and territories within your sales team to really target in your messaging. So we can help you work through some of that and know what users to define, different pick lists to fill out, how to use lead sources, what those all mean, and how that can help you better target with all the data that you have in the CRM. We can even help give you a sample flow for leads. A lot of you I know don't use the leads entity yet, and so we can help you with that, again, building it out, the pick lists, the data types, and then even a basic process to get you going on how to use the leads. Any questions here at the moment? All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to John. He is going to take over and kind of hop in, and we're going to look at here. All right, you should be presenter, John. So we were just going to take a look at some of the activity stuff that we just showed as far as pick lists and dashboards and things. All right, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good. I'm not sure which screen though.
I can see your.
It looks like
CRM demo. There's the SLX eval.
All right. All right, so activity groups are relatively new within Infor CRM. Before they were locked down and they were predefined. Now John, you can create activity.
One second. Are you showing the actual CRM?
What I said before, I don't see what I'm showing.
Oh, okay. So we're seeing something. I don't think we're not seeing the CRM.
Oh, I thought you said we were. Okay.
No, it's something that says SS CRM demo, but it's not the actual CRM. There we go. Perfect. All right.
Okay. All right. So this is just a view of a group. This was the all open group in this case, but you can identify different conditions for the group just like you can throughout Infor CRM. So if you wanted to look at the groups that are, or the activities that are past due, or maybe it's related to a large opportunity. So it may be high potential revenue, past due activities, then you can create those types of groups. And so you would just create them like any other group, where you would identify what the conditions are, and then that would allow you to either use that group in a dashboard or just display it in a list so that you can keep on top of the most critical things. Often we'll have people create groups related to contacts or companies that they haven't been in touch with recently, and then create activities from that. In your dashboards, you could identify some of the data there if you want to see performance statistics, like who within the sales team is performing the most activities. And in the 8.5 dashboards that are coming, that have, well, 8.5 was just released a week ago. In those dashboards, we now have the ability to have multi-dimensional or three-dimensional grids. So like on this bar chart that is a two-dimensional bar chart, in 8.5, we now have three-dimensional bar charts, which would allow you to display more data, not just related to activities, but it would help you measure your activity performance from, within your staff or within a customer base or a target market. And so you should take advantage of using your dashboards for that, for more analytics or overall company performance. I would say that most people use either the calendar or the activity list view to do their day in and day out processing of activities, but the dashboards are useful for more of a measurement standpoint. So I wanted to open it up to just ask, what type of activity performance issues are you seeing within your companies?
Yeah, feel free to drop those in the chat box.
And as we're waiting for those, in a previous webinar, we talked about how it's important to identify in this regarding box what you're trying to achieve within the activity. So here this is saying follow up on inquiry. So that's fairly clear, but not very clear. It's somewhat vague. But this could be more descriptive, like you're trying to close the sale, or you're trying to confirm that the support issue has been resolved. And then your note should be specific related to the details of those. Typically, when I'm scheduling an appointment like a meeting, I will put what I expect to be the agenda in the meeting notes before, as I'm scheduling the activity. And then as I take the meeting notes, then I'm updating that. Often I also do see where people don't use the priority, they don't standardize on a priority within the company, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to help encourage proper time management. So I would suggest that that's one of the pick lists that should be standardized.
We have a question.
Have we received any questions?
Yeah, we just got one. So how can we show the sales team? So it sounds like the sales team is complaining that recording activities takes too long. So like, what's the most efficient way to get them to start using activities? Oh, and
well, I'd say the most.
How can we tell them it is helpful? So I guess maybe user adoption too, getting them on board.
Okay. Well, I would say I tend to see that if people are used to using Outlook, they may choose to just stick with that, and they may do some task management in Outlook. The downside of that is that it's not sharing that knowledge with others, and it's also not tying it to the account or contact within Outlook. So one of the big advantages of using the activities within Infor CRM is that anyone that's looking at the account or the contact can see what's going on. You have a current picture of the status of that account. So you can save time by not having to call someone, checking with your coworker, and trying to discover what the status is. You just glance at it, you know what the status is, and you move forward. So although someone may say that recording the activity takes time, often I find that the inefficiencies caused by not having that done slow you down. And so that would be one suggestion. Also, I would say that when you're scheduling activities, it can be as simple as you click on new phone call while you're on the contact screen, and you just start typing what it's about. Or if you choose to use a pick list, you can, and you schedule the meeting or phone call or to do, whatever it is. And then when you go to complete it, I often will use the complete activity. So I may be, depending upon where I'm at, maybe I'm on the activity form while I'm talking to the contact. And so I just click complete. And then I'll also schedule a follow-up at that point. Now, I try to encourage people to have a default follow-up. So usually when you're finishing a meeting, you're either going to have another phone call or a to-do. You might have another meeting scheduled, but I would say normally after a phone call, there's another phone call that's going to happen. So within the options, the user options for a user, I do encourage that you schedule what your follow-up activities will be. So that's something that just helps simplify the workload. And when you're completing an activity, it's already there. But if I go back to that, so I complete an activity, whether this is already completed with phone call or to do, I am almost always scheduling a new activity when I'm completing one, because it's very rare that there's not going to be a follow-up activity, unless of course I upset the customer and he told me he never wants to talk to me again. So when you're doing this, then you just complete the activity. You've already got the follow-up there, and then it's going to prompt you to fill out the follow-up activity. So it really isn't taking much time. Now, for going back to the discussion on surprises, I would say one of the other methods to encourage user adoption is to recognize when they may be surprised and use that as a learning lesson of how someone else may not have completed something that they should have or scheduled their activities, and use that as a learning lesson. Most people that are good at managing their schedules in general don't miss meetings or activities that they're supposed to be at or responsible for. But I would say even I've done that. If I didn't put something, it's a kind of a golden rule for me. If it's not on my calendar, it's probably not going to happen in a timely manner. But if I put it on my calendar, I'm reminded about it, and I'm more likely to get it done and finish it on time. So those are thoughts that I have. Now, some people also, there's different methods of time management. And if a company is very passionate about time management and proper follow-up and exciting the customer with their response level, often they've standardized on some procedures for time management. And so you might want to consider that within your companies.
Yeah, another way to keep quick use, a lot of people forget about the My groups in CRM. So your team could know to use the My activities, My contacts, right? A lot of times I see everyone going to the all groups and sifting through. So getting them comfortable with those groups that show just their accounts in CRM can be helpful too.
And when it comes to scheduling meetings, we do use Outlook to schedule our meetings, and so we may get a meeting invite from someone, and so that's coming through Outlook. It's not coming through Infor CRM, but I have my meetings scheduled in Infor CRM to sync. So when the meeting invite comes in, that it syncs into Infor CRM, and at that point in time, I can edit the meeting and then attach it to the proper contacts that's associated with it. Another thing that is relatively new in Infor CRM is the attendees tab for activities. The attendees allow you to identify multiple people that are associated with an event, a meeting, for example, and they may be from multiple companies. They're not just with this customer that it's targeting, but it may be other people, like employees within your company, or other related companies that are helping out with the project. So I would recommend trying to take advantage of that, because that can be powerful.
Absolutely. See if we have no other questions right now. Is there anything else we were going to show, John?
On the mobile client, it can be beneficial to just be aware that you can complete activities or schedule activities on the mobile client. So I don't know how many people are there out of the people that are participating in the webinar. How many are using the mobile portal?
You guys can do the raise your hand feature if you'd like. Looks like we've got several. That's good.
Okay. And what do you find most beneficial about it? How are you using it? Any input?
Let's see, one came in here for the team on the road to stay in the loop. So there sounds
Okay.
like they have an outside sales team.
Okay. So are many people scheduling activities, follow-up activities, or completing their activities with the mobile client?
All right, nobody's piping in on that one.
Okay. Okay. Well, that may be something. It is a handy utility to look up contacts or to click on the phone number and get the phone to dial. But it can also be helpful to, as you're doing that, to just add an activity, possibly add an attachment if someone sent you something on your phone. So that may be a handy way to get some adoption. So if they're looking up an account, then they can just click on add an activity, schedule their follow-up meeting while they're in the meeting with the customer. Or maybe right after they left the office and they're in their car.
You can do unscheduled on the latest version of the Infor mobile as well.
Right.
So that's a new feature now too.
Any other thoughts on what you've struggled with in regards to activity management?
Is anything else? I know I said we'd try to keep it around the 30-minute mark, and we're right about that now. Does anyone have anything else they want us to show, discuss? I can take someone off mute if they want to talk through something. Feel free to raise your hand or send a question. John, anything else to add here in the last few minutes that you wanted to cover?
No, I would just remind everyone that when you're trying to collaborate, it's important to just try to make sure that you're current and you've updated the customer or opportunity properly, so that if a coworker is looking at it, they get a current picture of what's going on, because that saves time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, John, for all the demo and
You're welcome.
Helping out. And everybody, thanks for joining again. I'll send the follow-up with the slides and the recording, and also a link to look for our next upcoming webinars to sign up and be ready. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks for joining. See ya.